Hi, everyone. I hear that we are starting. Gigawatt is still muted. We're having a slight technical difficulty that we tested before the meeting. So give us 1 second, we'll get that unmuted. There we are. Hello, everyone.
Hey. Yeah, who's complaining? That's festive. Still the reason not to be festive.
Did you have a good time?
That's nice. Yeah, thank you.
Let us know when you're ready, Nellie.
We're ready.
Okay, let's do roll call.
Great. When I call your name, if you'll please, and when I call your jurisdiction, if you'll please state your name.
Say again, Nellie.
San Mateo County. 2 for San Mateo County. I'm so sorry. It's so hard to tell who's here.
Okay,
I don't think.
keep going.
Okay, Atherton.
Richard Golia.
You, Belmont.
Julia
Brisbane.
Colleen Mackin.
You, Burlingame. Colma. Daly City. East Palo Alto.
Carlos Romero.
Foster City. Half Moon Bay.
How you are back?
Hillsborough. Los Banos. Farming. I do not see him online.
Sorry.
Menlo Park.
Trustee Nash.
Millbrae.
Indus-Funk.
Pacifica.
Tiger Jazz Twirls Big Stick.
Portola Valley.
Oh.
Redwood City.
Over Martinez.
San Bruno.
Marty Medina.
San Carlos. San Mateo.
Adam Lorraine.
Thank you. South San Francisco. Woodside.
Kevin Bryant.
Thank you. And we have a quorum.
Okay, great. The next item on the agenda is public comment. Public comment is reserved for people who wish to address the board on any Peninsula clean energy related matters that are not otherwise on the meeting agenda. Public comments on matters that are listed on the agenda can be heard at the time that the matter is called. Members of the public who wish to address the committee are limited to 2 minutes per speaker and must address an issue that is within our jurisdiction. Is there any public comment?
We do have one online and perhaps one in the room.
Okay, we'll take the one in the room first.
Good evening. My name is Brian Schmidt. I wanted to introduce myself. I am the new Diane Bailey, if you remember her. I'm the new executive director of Menlo Spark, and I can fill her shoes physically. Metaphorically, it's going to be a big lift, but I actually had lunch with her today, and I'm just very excited about our work in the city of Menlo Park, trying to help the city achieve its goal of climate neutrality by 2030. And that work also involves cooperation with Peninsula Clean Energy. Particularly excited about the likely setup of this $4.5 million grant from the California Energy Commission to achieve electrification for low-income residences in Menlo Park. And that Peninsula Clean Energy will be involved with the administration of that. So we also want to be involved in helping making that move along and all other efforts to help clean up and decarbonize the San Mateo County. So I'm looking forward to further involvement with PCE. Thank you.
Great. Welcome. And we have a public comment online.
Yes, it's David Morrow. Give me one moment. Okay, David, you can go ahead and give your comment. Or you should be able to.
There you go. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Good evening, Chairman DeGolia, Board of Directors, and PC staff. I just want to say on behalf of the IBEW's members, staff, and officers, We wish you all the happiest of New Year's and happiest of holidays. And we really appreciate working with the PCE and what we're trying to accomplish here with the climate change. And this year has been very good for the IBEW and Peninsula Clean Energy. And we look forward to working together next year and accomplishing even more good things. Because as you see on your agenda, there's more things coming that are going to benefit everybody involved. And like I said, from the members, staff, and officers, we wish you all the very best in the new year. Stay healthy, stay happy. Thank you so much. Merry Christmas. That's all I have for tonight.
Thank you, Dave. We'll take one more comment like that.
We'll have to save that for next year.
Nellie, if you didn't know, Bothell City is now here. And the next item is to set the agenda and approve the consent items. Does anyone wish to pull anything from the consent? Yes.
I don't wish to pull a consent item. I just want to briefly comment on forget the agenda item. But anyway, I'm just glad we are providing additional funding for used EV rebates. I think that's one of the most impactful things we can do for the climate to increase the affordability of EVs in our community and really make that accessible to everyone in our cities. And so I wholeheartedly support it and hope we can find ways to provide even additional funding over time to that. Thank you.
Sure. So Donna requests that when someone speaks, that they say their name so people online can hear who it is. And those that can't see your name tag.
This was John Dugan, Santa Carlos.
Okay, anyone else? Carlos?
Romero is gonna move approval.
Thank you. Second, Harvey, is the second? Okay, I'm letting Nellie know because she's not in the room. Okay, I don't know, do we need to do a roll call, Nellie?
If Spanos isn't here and no one is on video, you
Great.
can do a voice vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we approved the consent items. The next item is the chair report. The only thing that I have to report is, as everyone knows, this is the December meeting. At the December meeting, it is traditional for the chair to announce that we'll be setting up a nominating committee effective and to be announced as of the January board meeting. That nominating committee will nominate candidates or will review candidates that are nominated by others for the chair and vice chair positions. And that committee is to be composed of 3 to 5 members of the board. So if there's anyone on the board who wishes to serve on that nominating committee, please let me know. And I will announce the composition of that nominating committee at our January meeting. That nominating committee then will receive any nominations for chair and vice chair for the next year that members of the board make, and it will evaluate those and will announce the recommended chair and vice chair candidates at the February meeting, and then the board will vote on that. Okay, and once that new chair and vice chair are elected, they will take on putting together the new executive committee and the new audit and finance committee, which will be announced as of the March board meeting. Okay, so if anybody wishes to serve on that committee, let me know at any time. You can just text me or call me or grab me. Okay. Next item is the CEO report.
Okay. Next slide, please. Oh, I've got the thing. These are the items that I'm going to report out on this evening, so I will make it quick. The first item is just letting you know that staff has held 2 planning sessions. One on last Friday, which was our quarterly team meeting. We spent the morning doing DEAI training for our team. We have a lot of new team members, and that was led by Kirsten and her team, and it was excellent. And then in the afternoon, the departments broke down into planning meetings for 2024. And then we had a holiday event in the late afternoon, a staff, for lack of a better term, a staff event, a staff party. And then on Tuesday, the senior team got together for a full day here in the office to synthesize all of the work that had been done on Friday and to begin to map out a work plan, a detailed work plan for 2024. And I'm glad to say it was very robust discussion. We unearthed a couple of things that we needed some awareness around and thinking about capacity and how we're going to get it all done. And so just want to let you know that I will be coming back to you in January with follow-up on specific items from the board retreat, which fed some of the discussion in December last week. And then we will bring back to you a fairly detailed work plan and sharing that with the chair and vice chair. So that's coming up in January. Also do want to announce that the staff is going to put together a new ad hoc subcommittee for energy programs. We're coming into a time with energy programs where things are just really coming to fruition and starting to take off, which is great news. We're also focusing this year on not only sort of rolling out our building electrification version 2, which is concierge service and all of that, but really focused on distributed energy resources, local generation, and all of those things. And having an energy program subcommittee help us focus on that, help us think through some prioritization issues, has been effective with other areas like marketing and procurement. So anyone who's interested in serving on that committee, there are no regular meetings and it's just periodic. But we find it helpful. So if you're interested, please ping me or Rick. By January 15th, we'd like to launch that committee, probably in February. Last thing for this slide is that the PG&E solar billing plan, formerly called net billing tariffs, formerly called NEM 3.0, that Leslie has been talking to us about, just a heads up that it was supposed to launch last week. PG&E approached the PUC about an extension to August. The PUC pushed back and said, no, you can have an extension to April. So that program will launch in April, as will ours. No other changes in substance were made. On the used EV rebate discussion, which you all just adopted, but I did want to highlight for you, the programs team has recommended, and we are implementing a couple of changes to better align our used EV program with the new federal rules for the sake of making things less confusing for our customers, for expanding access for our low-income customers, and for basically being in line with EV market trends. So I'll just be quick here that we have reduced our overall EV rebate to $2,000. We had a tiered incentive rebate structure, and that sort of existed before the federal tax credit. And so now we removed ours, made it single 2,000. They can stack it now with the federal credits to actually get more rebate than they would have with just PCE alone. So it works easier because it's now also at point of sale with various dealerships in our service territory. The income eligibility was raised to 75,000 for an individual or 150,000 per year for a joint filer. This again is in alignment with the federal rules, and more customers qualify as a result for our used EV rebates. The pre-approval process was eliminated again for alignment. We will conduct audits to ensure that the customers who are receiving these rebates actually are income qualified. And then just on a market note, used EV prices have come down substantially, but remain still higher than internal combustion engine gas cars. So I just want to make sure, it's a little bit embedded within the staff report, and want to make sure you are aware that we made those changes to remain in alignment and make it easier on our customers at the end of the day. Next slide, please. Mark, do you want to do a quick legislative?
Yes, good evening, board members. Happy Winter Solstice Day. 3 items, a quick note, the legislature adjourned in the middle of September and doesn't reconvene until January 3rd, but did want to draw your attention to 3 things that have happened since our last meeting. The first is that Assembly Speaker Rivas has appointed Kati Petri Norris, a Democrat of Irvine, as chair of the Committee on Utilities and Energy. And we note that Orange County Power Authority serves Irvine in that district, and did want to read a little bit from her press release issued when she accepted the position. She said, "I'm proud of this opportunity to work alongside Speaker Rivas and my colleagues to advance California's clean energy goals. We are seeing the effects of climate crisis every day, and it's incumbent upon us to move our green economy forward. As we build our clean energy future, we need to tackle some big challenges to develop a resource portfolio that's sustainable, reliable, and affordable." I'm very excited to get to work. Earlier in this month, the attention moved to the state Senate, where it was announced that Senator McGuire will assume the position of pro tem for the Senate, the leadership position, on February 5th. We note that Senator McGuire represents 3 CCAs. His district spans Marin County up to the Oregon border. Also notable is the fact that Mr. McGuire is termed out after 2026. So this will be a relatively brief period in the pro tem role. And lastly, don't mean to be the bearer of bad news, but I'm guessing you've seen reports of what's going on with the state budget. The LAO just earlier this month issued its opinion that the state budget is facing a significant, and by significant, they noted $68 billion deficit. A good portion of this, around 26 billion or so, is the result of the fact that tax returns this year were delayed. And so the budget was passed last June with anticipated revenues that never materialized. The state does have a $24 billion reserve, and there are some other things that the LAO suggested might be mechanisms to address the budget deficit. And there has been a call from some legislators to hold a special session to start to address the deficit immediately. Have not seen a response from the administration to that, but the governor's budget, initial budget, is expected to be released on January 10th or thereabout. And so I'm sure there will be a great deal of discussion about that in the year ahead, and how it's going to affect things such as bond measures and other efforts that might be on the ballot next year. That's my report.
Thanks, Mark. Any
Thank you.
questions for Mark? Okay, next slide, please. Quick staff update to let you all know that our own Rafael Reyes was promoted to Senior Director of Energy Program. Which is super. That took effect on December 1. We also welcome our new staff member, Viri Renteria, from Los Banos, who is our new Senior Specialist for Community Relations, serving our Los Banos territory. She came on and she's already been terrific. She attended her first city council meeting with Mark just last week. So she's already hit the ground running. Next slide. Sorry, one back here. This is unbelievable that there's only one listing up here for Associate Programs Manager, Energy Programs. That means that we've successfully filled a lot of positions this year, 14 to be exact. Only a couple of those from folks who moved on. Most of that has been growth, and we will see some additional postings in January. So please spread the word. And last but not least, hard to believe, but we're looking at January 2024 meetings. So that's our schedule. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. The next item on the agenda is the Community Advisory Committee report. But I think we're going to delay that. Is that right, Nellie?
Yes, I'm still trying to make contact with Cheryl from the CAC.
Okay, no problem.
A tech issue.
Let's just push that to after the other active items on the agenda. So the next item on the agenda is approval of fiscal year-end surplus funds committee recommendations.
Okay. Next slide, please. I will say, just to kick this off, that the executive committee heard this item at its meeting on December 11th and unanimously supported the recommendation with one small language change, which I will point out here. I'm going to read through this because there are several moving parts to this recommendation to keep in mind. The committee recommends that the board approve a slate of 8 funding allocations totaling $68 million coming out of our fiscal year end 2024 budget. It recommends that we establish an annual reserve target of 250 adjusted days cash on hand, above which the board would consider another surplus fund allocation. The third element would be to modify PCE's policy 18, which you have there in your packet. It's our financial reserve policy, stating that if our operating reserve is projected to fall below our stated 180 days over the next 12 months, that PCE will implement plans such as increasing our rates or reducing our discounts to return our operating reserves to the level of 180 days, which is our established minimum within 2 fiscal years. And finally, the committee recommends that we include a standard 10% contingency in our energy and our power services budget for energy to absorb the costs of volatile energy market. So those are the components of the full recommendation. Next slide, please. Just for a little background and context, and I'll just start off by saying we have deep appreciation for all of the board members and the CAC member who spent more than 10 hours. We were 10 hours in meetings all total, but lots of reading and background to digest. We established 4 funding criteria. The first of which was looking at our reserve days cash on hand. The second was considering what we might do about customer rates, whether through a rebate or additional discounts. The third category was looking at energy programs in areas that needed potentially to scale or could benefit from additional funding. And the fourth was providing funding for local energy development, so generation within our service territory. The committee also established evaluative criteria, including GHG reduction impact and resilience impact of various opportunities, customer benefit, PCE awareness and positive impact on our reputation in our community. Is it a new or existing program? Obviously, launching a whole bunch of new programs would have had a significant impact on staff capacity. And then also just looking at staff level of effort. And there was a spreadsheet and all kinds of discussions and 6 meetings over the course of several months. Next slide, please. So this slide here, and I'm not going to read all of these because this is in your staff report. This lays out the committee's recommendation of 8 expense line items, totaling 68 million. I will tell you that the first one, which is the customer rebate for Carefera customers. This was, as you know, approved by your board in November. Those have gone out. Those credits have been posted to nearly 41,000 customer accounts in San Mateo County in the city of Los Banos. A letter went out. It was attached to the staff report. And we haven't received a ton of feedback about it. And Leslie may be able to say more later, but I did want to let you know that that item is done, and it was done well before the holidays hit. And then the next 6 are energy program opportunities. And then the last one was funding for local power projects. And that got 15 million. I'm going to keep going and then we'll come back for questions if there are any specific questions or comments. Next slide. Do want to also let you know that the one new item that was advanced by the committee, we put some structure around it, and this was an allocation of 11.5 million for member agency energy grants. And the idea for this came out of the fact that there were so many different ideas that were specific to a particular jurisdiction, or maybe 1 or 2, but not necessarily applicable across the entire service territory. So the idea was to, based on customer size and load size, figure out a fair allocation that would be available to each of our member agencies to apply for grants to use in a way that you see fit, but also in a way that is commensurate with our mission and our goals. So it has to be used for GHG reductions, sustainability measures, electrification. You guys get to decide. So it is flexible grant money. You do have to apply for it. And you must use that funding within 24 months and then provide a report post-project, just so that we can track how that money has been expended. But I think that idea came from Marty and from Donna. And I think it's
Actually gonna give it to you.
well, whomever, we were all having a meeting and,
You came.
okay. But anyway, what we're
We
trying to do,
understand.
what we were trying to do here was to provide a way for everybody to use it the way they need, not necessarily the way the next town needs. So that's where this came from. All right, next slide, please. Oh, that's it, actually. So sorry, go back, Brianna, thank you. So that concludes surplus funds. If you want to go back to the recommendation slide, that would be helpful. Are there any questions or comments?
How are you going to alert the member agencies about this?
Our plan is to schedule, it might already be on the calendar. We're gonna do both a mailing and a webinar for relevant city staff, city managers. And you guys will be invited as well, because this is especially the energy grants are new money, but we also have the local government electrification loan that you adopted earlier this year. So there are a number of newish things that we want to make our member agencies aware of.
Great, thank you.
Donna?
Matt, are you gonna do city by city or one big?
Not city by city, I think because of time constraints. So we'll probably do a couple of them and invite everybody.
And make sure just that we don't run that from them, right? Is that, David?
I'm sorry, I was reading
So,
that.
no. So if we have a webinar meeting where we invite all the board members to participate, listen, do we have to,
City staff, really.
or city staff that you said you just said invite you?
Yeah, we could, yeah, we will, and it's not required, but
Okay,
definitely cities.
so on a webinar, can we all sit on and not talk?
I don't think so. Let me think a little bit more
So
about
in other
that,
words,
but I
just
don't,
wanna
I don't
alert you
think
to
so.
that,
Yeah,
so maybe
thank
you
you.
guys think about that just really quick. But what you could do is you could break it down into like groups of like 5 cities and do, or 7 cities.
Question though, would that still be the case, David, if it's purely information educational? It's not policy setting at all. It's really like, here's how it works. Here's the deadline.
So the Brown Act says that it's a meeting whenever a majority of the members gather to hear.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Doesn't matter what the content
Or
is.
you could just do it
No,
instead.
if the content is relevant.
To the subject matter of yeah, you can always go to a party or.
I
Yes, but as far as like presenting information that is within the jurisdiction of the.
Anyway, we can solve that.
Okay, thanks for the heads up.
No worries, I
That's
was
good.
thinking about it when you said that. The other piece is, there was a chart that you had done that maybe like give us all expected amounts for cities. I don't think that's in here though, right?
You know what? I apologize. It's not. I will send it out. Or
I just thought it would be nice for people to know what. the-
yeah. So what it says in the staff report is that, and the chart that's there is actually dated. That's back to, I think, October.
Yeah,
So we're gonna update that chart as of January. And what it does is that it lists out all of our member agencies along with the number of accounts in each jurisdiction and the load. We're going to take the higher of the two to give you the benefit of the doubt. And then that we take this 11.5 and then allocate that across those numbers so that it is a fair allocation. And we will get out to you with what that looks like. I'll send that out. Thank you.
Sean, if you do the webinar and we're not allowed to attend, if you could at least record it, that way we could watch it after the fact and be familiar with it.
Okay,
It's fine.
great.
Any other questions? Brianna, can you go back 2 slides? No, sorry, one back, no.
One more.
One, yeah, that one. You were gonna highlight the change that was made at the executive.
Yes. Okay, so you want me to do?
Sure.
It's in item C. So you'll see there in the second line where it says PCE will implement plans such as increasing rates. Originally, the language was will consider implementing plans, and the executive committee felt that the removing the word consider was clearer and more directive and a better signal, frankly, to the rating agencies. Should we decide to go back out for a new rating? Does that cover it?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
That's great. Sure, everything's where. Okay, so this is an action item. Carlos?
So I just wanted to maybe get a little clarification on the 250. I am on both the executive committee and the finance committee, so. Maybe, so B says establish an annual reserve target of 250 adjusted days cash on hand. And over which, I guess, we would then consider the surplus allocation. If I combine that with B, right, which is 10%, essentially it's enough, just you're adding another 30 days. So we're almost at a 280 day number. Let's do a hypothetical. End of the year, we have 10%. Our 10% energy contingency wasn't even touched. Probably never happened, right? Because markets fluctuate. But let's say there's 10%. Let's say there's 5% left, right? Do we then move that into, the category of, net assets, and then start all over again the next year with adding another 29 million or whatever the 10% is? I don't know. It's probably $27 million right now. So it's just trying to understand how that the 10% affects the overall money that might be available after that 250 days, target reserves.
So let me, just to be clear, is your question, it's 10% of what?
Well, no, I know it's 10% of our cost of energy, correct? Which is about what, 28 million. But so you're locking in, right? You're locking out, let's say, of the boards or our access, that money, because it's a contingency, and we know that in one bad week, we could lose $10 million. I mean, literally, right? If things spike. So it makes sense, but I'm saying at the end of the year, if we did not indeed consume the entire contingency, let's say 5% is left, then that kind of filters back into end of the year net assets left. That 5% would go into the net asset piece, and we start all over again the next year with another 10% in the budget. Is that correct?
So I think it's a great question, and I would like to come back to you. I'm not even gonna call on Nick or Andy who are with us,
okay.
because this feeds into, I think, a bigger conversations for audit and finance to think about going forward. Do we want to think about a balancing account? That is, some people call it a rate stabilization fund. There's all kinds of applications for it. Nick hasn't been around long enough for us to really, I think, vet this and bring it to audit and finance. But we were talking about, would that be one way to absorb, if we don't use that 10%, how to carry it forward? And does it make sense to do that? And I don't know the answer to your question, whether it would go above that 250 or we would net it out. But I think we should look at it in the context of some options and bring it back. Is that fair?
Yeah, no, I was gonna say fair enough. Again, one of my biggest concerns is that we wind up sitting, regardless of whether it's in reserves or whether it's in a contingency or a sinking fund, we wind up sitting on $500 million, right, in these various pots of money.
Yeah.
And our residents are gonna say, what the hell are you doing charging me this much money? So as long as we're aware of that moving forward, we'll talk about it in the executive committee, and the finance committee. I may not be on either at this time, but we'll see. I think it would be, we just have to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
I'm fine with this recommendation.
Thank you, Carlos. I think that's a really good point. And if there's other questions on that pertaining to that, so what if we exceed it? And where do we go? What do we do? How do we do? What account do we balance in out of? And what if there are other things, like what if we screw up on a hedging contract or something like that? So I think what you're talking about is it, there's that contingency, then there's is it like a bigger carousel account that just kind of balances out all these what ifs.
Yeah, and there's some things that are prospective, right? And what you're talking about is in the rear view mirror, so we have to figure out how does that all play? And I know that Nick and Andy have started this conversation, because it also goes to, even if we don't move to full cost of service, and we don't know that yet, that's coming to your board in 2024, there are some other options to consider. And this plays into that as well. So I feel like it's a really important question, and it has a couple different applications for audit and finance to dig into.
We still need a motion. Thank you. Thank you. So that's a motion by Jeff Alps and a second by Julia Mates. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, unanimously approved. The next item on the agenda is approval of updates to policy 13.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm not there in person to present this to you. What we're talking about today is updating a portion of policy 13. Policy 13 is a policy that we have specifically for delinquent accounts and collections. The piece that we are specifically looking to update is the collections portion of that policy. The collections portion only applies to customers who owe PCE money from electric generation that we've provided to them once their account has closed. So PG&E acts as our billing agent. They collect on funds while the account is active. When a customer takes an action to close account, or if account has been closed because of non-payment, that's another reason account can be closed. But once an account is actually closed and is no longer active, PG&E will send a final bill to that customer. Customer has roughly 60 days or so to make a payment on that final bill. Whatever is not collected in that, after that final bill is issued, if there's still funds owed to Peninsula Clean Energy after that, PG&E transfers those funds back to us, and it's up to us to collect on that money if we choose to do so. Not all CCAs pursue collections. We previously did have an active collections plan in place. It was suspended, during COVID, and we've been looking at bringing that back, into fruition now that most other agencies are also doing that. The main change that we'd want to make to policy 13 is adding in an additional step for pre-collections, where we give customers an option to pay us directly for that closed past due balance before we actually turn the account over to a full formal collection agency. We haven't previously had a way for customers to pay us directly for these balances. And that's what we're looking to do. That's the amendment we're looking to make to the policy, is to establish this process for pre-collections and create the process around that so that we can collect payment from customers directly.
Okay.
So again, just a little bit of background. The current policy has been suspended since late 2019. We had originally suspended it for other work reasons, and then COVID hit and everybody suspended all of their collection policies. We have gone ahead and moved forward to clear off our bad debts that were primarily significantly accrued during COVID timeframes prior to this current fiscal year. In this new moving forward and updated collection policy would apply to current debts starting with this new current fiscal year. With the pre-collections option, we'll be sending a notice to customers to let them know that they have this debt that they may or may not be aware of. Some of these, I would say some of these accounts are from customers who don't normally have a problem paying their bill, but just didn't pay their final 1 or 2 bills to PG&E. And so we have a roughly smallish balance left over that they owe us. Some of them are actually folks who, have more substantial balances. I think that the pre-collections option is going to be pretty successful for those folks who just have a small balance, maybe $100, $200 that they haven't paid from their last couple of bills. But we'd like to give everyone the option to pay us directly if they would choose to do so versus going to a collection agency. And then for those customers who don't respond to the pre-collections effort, we will work with transferring over to a formal collection agency. We did a bit of a search through our neighbor agencies, asked folks who they're working with on collections. The agency that we had previously worked with is no longer in operation, so we needed to find a new partner for this. Optio Solutions came forward as a partner that a couple folks are working with. Sonoma Clean Power has been working them with for a while, and they're very happy with them. One other sort of update that we've made as an internal policy decision is for CareFair customers. So folks who are on CareFair that have past due balances, we'll still send them a note and give them an option to pay us directly if they are able to do so. But if they don't, we won't turn over those accounts to a collection agent. And then our balance write-offs will continue to happen as normal for balances that are ineligible. These are balances that are under $50 that we've never pursued collections on the small balances. That's all I have for you tonight. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Great. Thank you, Leslie. Any questions? Leslie?
Just one question of other Leslie Ragsdale. Question is just to make sure that the CareFair customers, that the letter that they get is a different letter and doesn't mention the possibility of collections, because that can be pretty stressful to get that letter.
Yep. Yeah, we haven't drafted everything yet. This is, assuming all of this goes forward, we'll work on the notifications pieces of it. But yes, we do have a plan to have a different letter for the CareFair customers.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you, Leslie. How large these delinquent balances could get?
I'm sorry?
How large could these balances get?
How large can the balances? Well, for commercial customer, some of these are commercial accounts. So commercial balances, can be quite large. Like a manufacturing business or, a restaurant that hasn't paid their bills for several months, can be in the tens of thousands of dollars sometimes. Most residential accounts, though, are in the hundreds of dollars. Occasionally, they can get into thousands of dollars neighborhood. But mostly these are smaller balances. We don't have a lot of tens of thousands of dollars accounts, but occasionally that'll happen if a company files for bankruptcy and hasn't paid their bills for several months. That can happen.
Thank you. So the question is, if customers opt to pay us directly rather than a third party, would we be offering payments or just have to pay the balance?
Ideally, we would get that done in one transaction, but we could work with people, if they needed to, do that in a few payments separately. I don't envision us doing, like 10 months worth of payments for somebody, but we'll take that as a, case by case basis and see what we can do to make sure that it works for everybody involved.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions? Okay, this is an action item. So I need a motion to approve. Thank you, Julie. And second by Sam Hindy. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, unanimously passed. And the next item on the agenda is approval of the creation of Climate Champion Award.
Yes, good evening again, directors. You have before you a proposal for the creation of a Peninsula Clean Energy Climate Champion Award. The idea behind this is to lift up those champions who have helped Peninsula Clean Energy become the success that it has at this time, And so staff and along with the executive board are recommending the adoption of this award. We propose to make it open to recognize legislators, regulators, stakeholders, organizations, policymakers, advocates, and others who have contributed to the success of the organization and who have also made significant contributions to the fight against climate change. If approved, so the suggestion is that this be an annual award. We would recognize somebody in the fall. It would be a consultation between staff and the board chair and vice chair. They would then bring that nominee to the attention of the executive committee, and eventually the presentation would be made at a board meeting or other Peninsula Clean Energy appropriate event. And we would like to hopefully be able to invite the honoree to be present at that board meeting for that recognition. We would potentially either develop a plaque that would remain in the office for recognition, and or an award, a physical award to be presented to the honoree. So would entertain any questions you may have or discussion.
Donna?
So I think this is a great idea. It's a good way to raise the Peninsula Clean Energy profile. I do want to make sure that as we pick people, or, you know, I assume it's one person or one organization a year. You know, in looking at these awards over time, sometimes the recipients tend to be white men over and over again. And I just want to make sure that, you know, we think thoughtfully about, you know, age and diversity and like what other people are doing, so that we're fair, you know, we're sort of going down a pathway that, you know, is thoughtful about recognizing all the types of people and organizations that.
Thank you for that. We'll make note of that and include that in the discussion this summer when.
You know, I maybe, I don't over regulate this but maybe we could come up with a couple of criteria. Like the bullet for the first bullet and I think it says you recognize, I think it doesn't, maybe we might want to come up with a couple of things that the board will be looking at in terms of, so it's not just so subjective.
Yeah.
And vague.
It's good. So why didn't staff come back and recommend?
Sure.
Some criteria that make sense? Go ahead.
And the other thing you may want to do is, you know, if you find there's a lot of organizations and people, is maybe you have one award for organizations and one award for a person. That way you can get more people recognized over time. But that's just, I mean, it's just another option. Like, you know, we have our beautification awards and we award single family homes, commercial, and now multi-family residential, because, you know, it's just too hard. And there was a bias toward single family homes, so we expanded it.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Nellie has her hand up.
Pardon?
Oh,
Nellie.
Nellie, yeah.
Oh, Nellie.
Hi, I just want to, two things. One, check for public comment, and also remind everyone to please state your name before making any
Oh,
comment.
sorry about that. I'm the one who suggested it and did
It's as a virtual participant, I think nobody has stated their name yet. However, I do know everybody's voices, so it's been fine for me, but for our members of the public, that would be helpful. Thank you.
That was Donna Colson, by the way. I'm so sorry.
Okay, let's see if there's any public comment on this. I don't see any public comment in the room. Is there any public comment online? Okay, no public comment online, so we'll close public comment. Do you want to vote on this subject to the staff bringing criteria that we can then consider? I think that would be fine. I need a motion.
a motion to advance the we calling this the creation of climate champion award. And that's, by the way, that's Donna Colson making the motion.
And it's Harvey seconding that. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that passed unanimously, and we are now moving on to approval of a contract with ID Lab Global for brand and marketing services in an amount not to exceed $300,000.
Good evening, Board of Directors. Gwen Rose, Director of Marketing and Community Relations. Yes, I'm here to request approval for a contract with ID Lab Global for brand and marketing services. The contract will run through December 31st, 2024. So some quick background. Peninsula Clean Energy has gone through a few brand and identity sort of changes and updates over the years since our launch in 2016, updates in 2018, 2020. So we're kind of in that process again. Wanted to relook at the brand strategy and, really in light of context and changes with the organization and this desire to become more customer centric. So through that process, we've conducted customer research and listening that indicated that we had some opportunities to strengthen the connection between the benefits and the services that we offer to customers in ways that are going to improve awareness, familiarity, favorability. We performed a brand audit to uncover opportunities for elevating brand awareness, ways that we could change the look and feel, the tone. And then we issued an RFP for the marketing support, which is really the culmination of the contract that we're bringing before you today. Just an overview of the process. We released the RFP in September. We shared that with a diverse list of agencies, including ones on the CPUC Supplier Clearinghouse. We evaluated 30 extensive proposals over the month of November, some really impressive, strong candidates. And after a rather grueling process, we selected ID Lab Global and their subcontractor, Villain.
Great name.
As they like to say, every hero needs a villain. So they're the anti-agency. So the objectives of the RFP were to increase awareness from 40 to 60%. That's our strategic goal, one of our strategic goals. Want to build a brand that our customers can relate to and trust, generate leads, and help customers take advantage of our programs and retain customers. What we're going to be getting started with right away in January would be really focusing on the brand strategy piece. So we want to update the brand strategy, update the brand identity, look at our positioning, our messaging platform, and then really the process of rolling out those materials to our team, and then developing the go-to-market strategy, which is really when you're introducing this updated brand to the public. What does that look like? The channels, the tactics, the creative, media plan. So here's our timeline. Again, we would kick off January 3rd, and then we would go through a discovery process. And as I mentioned, we'd go through the strategy, the identity, the messaging platform, the brand rollout, and all of the work should conclude around May. And then we would come back to the board with the media plan, with that go-to-market strategy to lay out how we would take the brand and roll it out. Okay, so happy to answer any questions about it if there are any.
Questions? See any questions?
Okay.
I'll just say, I serve on the marketing subcommittee and I oversaw, Gwen looped into the process you ran, and it was a really strong process and a really great list of candidates. And I think Idea Lab will be a terrific partner for this. And I was forward to seeing what they come up with. So thank you.
Yeah.
Dave?
Oh, John Dugan, St. Croix.
Thank you.
Back in Brisbane, I just want to point out something in the staff report as well that I think is really important for everyone to take in on this, is the sentence in here is so important. Transitioning from a primarily transactional marketing approach to more customer-centered approach. That's a huge departure for us and really good timing to do that now.
Okay, I need a motion to approve. That's one.
I will move to delegate authority to the CEO to sign a brand and marketing services contract with Ideal Lab Global.
Second that.
Okay, thanks, Tony. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
And just to confirm, that was motion by Director Dugan, second by Director Mackin.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. And the next item on the agenda is the PCE customer energy rate update.
Back to Leslie.
Thank you. Give you a little background here, folks. As many of you know, PG&E is going to be updating their electric rates effective January 1, 2024. That's going to include increases for both transmission and delivery, the piece that all of our customers pay, and generation rates, which is the piece that we use to calculate our discounted rates. The PCIA, which is that surcharge that our customers also pay to PG&E, or in this case, in some cases this year, it was a small credit. That is also looking like it's going to, again, this year be very close to zero or negative in relevant PCE vintage years. I say relevant PCE vintage years, I'm talking about the vintage years that apply to the majority of our customer base. So that's 2016 for San Mateo County, and 2021 and 2022 for Los Banos. Based off of the filings that we've been following leading up to this rate change, it looks like generation rates are going to be increasing a fair amount, maybe 10% or more in some cases, system-wide. And then the actual PG&E rates aren't going to be published again until, right before they go live. So we don't know exactly what's going to change for which rate and which rate class specifically until right before it goes live. So we're expecting those to be posted maybe Thursday or Friday next week. Now, normally when this happens, we come to you with the request to just immediately implement a rate change, recalculate our rates to be a 5% discount, from PG&E, and then move forward implementing those rates right away with in February 1, when there's a January 1 rate change. What we're planning to do this year is, instead of immediately pushing forward with that rate change on February 1 with that pegged 5% discount to PG&E, we'd like to hold off until at least March, for a rate change, to give us a little bit more time to do some analysis on those rates and do a deeper dive on our budget forecasts and update the load forecasts to look at this a little bit more closely and see and give you guys some more options, essentially. When we did their budget initially last year, all of the consultants analysis and the projections that were coming forward looked like PG&E's rates were going to be relatively flat, as an impact to us, like that the PCIA was going to go up, gen rates might stay kind of flat or go up a little bit. And so we budgeted only like a 1%, less than 1% generation change increase in our budget in the current budget year to happen in January. If we followed that 10%, roughly 10% increase right away, we could potentially be, collecting a bit more money than we might have intended to budget wise. So we want to just do a little bit more analysis with those rates when we actually get them, and then bring some options to you at the board meeting next month to consider. Some of those options might be 5% discount that we normally do, plus maybe a couple others to consider in moving forward. So what does that mean? How does that impact us? Our rates would stay unchanged. And for the most part, that means the net discount comparable to PG&E's would increase, because we're expecting PG&E, the increase in the gen rates from PG&E, it's not a flat increase on every rate across the board. Some rates are going to go up a little bit more than others. Some things are going to adjust a little bit, but relatively, our increase is going to be a little bit higher than 5%, might be a lot higher than 5% in some cases for the interim period while we hold our rates flat. Customer bills, however, are still going to go up overall, because those increases on the T&D side of the bill, people are still going to have those increases. They're going to experience those higher rates in T&D, but the overall impact for them is going to be a little bit less if they're taking service from Peninsula Clean Energy. Our revenues are going to deviate slightly from our budget projections. Like I mentioned, our initial budget projected a roughly 1% increase in rates for January. So we're going to deviate that. If we don't do the rate change, we delay it a little bit, that will deviate from the budget slightly, but we do have financial reserves sufficient to manage that slight deviation. But what this really is going to do is allow us some time to be a little bit more deliberate about the evaluation of that rate change, with an updated load forecast and updated energy costs for our budget this year, and bring forth a couple of options for the board to consider next month for going forward with the rate change. Do you have any questions?
Thanks, Leslie.
Some questions.
Any questions from members of the board? Okay, I don't see any questions. Let me see if there's any public comment on this issue. I don't see any public comment here. I don't see any public comment online. I'll close public comment. Any comments from members of the board? Marty?
Yeah, I would like to see us explain to the public, like, what the rate increases are. I was just looking over the last 10 years, it's gone up 94% for PG&E's rates, and it's like, people always, what I hear is, in our social media accounts that I track, it's like, well, there goes PG&E raising the rates again, and then a couple of weeks later, you'll hear, like, what's this charge on PCE, like on my bill? And when I see that, I generally send it over to staff here at PCE. So I think we really need to start explaining, we're doing everything we can. We have the 5% less, and when something like this is happening, that we can help explain to the public, like, all right, we're not going to increase it for the time being. And I think that's a worthwhile process. So that's my comment.
I'll make a comment. We all know that the biggest issue for our customers is the cost of electricity. It's the rates they experience. They're going to see at least a 10% increase in their rates January 1st, based on what Leslie reported. 2/3 of their electricity bill is delivery. And transmission. It's 1/3 is generation. So we impact 1/3 of it. By us not raising our rates, they're going to see a 10% increase in 2/3 of their rates. That's a guaranteed 7% increase. And I agree with what Marty said. I think it's the right thing for us to hold off. Let staff do an analysis. I'd be in favor, if staff analysis supports it, of us not doing a rate increase until the end of the fiscal year and reevaluate it at that time. I think once we make that decision, we absolutely have to do what Marty said, is we got to go out and say, PG&E raised their rates, we're not raising our rates. And I mean, we just gave $300 to our CareFair customers. We need to see that picked up in the press. I haven't seen anything about
Going
that.
out tomorrow.
I mean, our letter's gone out.
Yeah.
So, but I haven't seen it in the press, so I really agree with what you said, Marty. That we probably have to wait until we make the final decision.
Right.
So we can announce what what that big decision is, and I think giving staff time to do the analysis is the right thing.
Colleen Mack in Brisbane. The one thing, just dovetailing off what you and Marty just said, is over and over, this comes back, and it comes back from constituents we have, I'm sure, in all of our cities, where people are PCE customers because of they're in unless they opt out. They do not understand that they are PCE customers. I think that's an area right now with rate increases, we need to send something out to them and say, if you just received a rate increase that was PG&E's, PCE will have a separate increase or however we want to word it. We need to start making that distinction because we get lumped in with PG&E on all of these things.
It's a good thing Gwen is here tonight.
Wherever you are.
Any other comment? Okay, thank you. This is not an action item, so
We'll come back with more in January
Come back with
with
more
options for
when we
you.
know what PG&E has done and
That's
you'll
right.
give us more information.
Yep.
Let me just ask one public comment question. There were a couple items like the D-Lab item that I failed to ask for public comment. They moved so quickly. If there is any public comment on anything else, now would be a great time for you to give that public comment. I don't see any public comment in the room. I don't see any public comment online. Okay, and that leads us up to any board member reports.
Actually, Chair DeGolia,
Yeah?
pushed the Community Advisory Committee report.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Thank
Yes.
you.
Yep. And Kirsten Andrews Schwind will be presenting that tonight.
Okay, great. Thank you, Nellie.
Technical difficulties with my slides.
There she is.
Good evening, everyone. And I'll be standing in for Cheryl tonight to give the Community Advisory Committee report. The committee met in earlier this month. Sad news that one of our members, Brandon Chan, resigned from the committee. He did a great job, but he had some other wonderful opportunities serving on local committees in South San Francisco. The committee did take an action on did make a recommendation regarding the budget surplus, which of course you've already taken action on, but reiterated the recommendation made to the Budget Surplus Committee and appreciate the full consideration of their previous recommendation to the Budget Surplus Committee, that they support funding the following concepts: high visibility projects that position Peninsula Clean Energy as a leader and innovator, such as microgrids and a demonstration center, maximizing the on-bill financing program, rebate for Carefara customers, which of course has already gone into effect, but also when identifying customers who qualify for the energy rebate, evaluate customers who have been previously enrolled in the Carefara in addition to currently enrolled Carefara customers, enhance and expand low-income home upgrade programs, and for the water heater loaner program, prioritize using heat pump water heaters over gas water heaters. And yeah, that was the only action that was taken during that meeting. The committee also had a discussion on the future of Eco 100 and gave feedback on that. Heard a recap of the staff retreat, of the board of directors retreat. Heard the update from Leslie on rates and bad debt. And that's about it.
Okay, great. Anyone have any questions for Kirsten? Yes.
Leslie Ragsdale from Hillsborough. I was just wondering if you're going to be looking to fill that now vacant position, if you know, and if so, will you get the word out maybe to people who have applied in the past?
That is a wonderful question, Leslie. We did have a fantastic group of candidates who applied last year. And it was actually kind of painful to turn a number of them down because they were so good. So traditionally, we do open up the applications to the Community Advisory Committee every year, early in the year. This year, we have been tossing around the idea of simply going back to last year's candidate poll. We only have a couple of openings, and simply going back to the 15 or so wonderful people we turned down last year and seeing if they would like to fill in. And that would save some staff time and save some time from the board as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, Leslie, for bringing that up. Christian, it seems to me, I don't know how many years were left on this particular term, but it seems to me like going back to the pool for the particular term to fill out the rest of that term might be okay. But I would hate to get in the practice of not opening these up to the public, because it's just another way that we get our name out and the word out of who we are. And so I would be okay to fill the partial term with someone who was in the original pool. But if we do have 1 or 2 more seats, I think we should open it up to the public again.
Okay.
That's just my sort of overview. And this is Donna Colson from Burlington again.
Colleen Mackin, just from what Donna said, do we have to make that a partial term, or can't we just start someone, give them a full term, but they'll just be on a different cycle?
So having done this a bunch of times, this is Donna again, having done this a bunch of times, we do have the terms kind of staggered. And so, and there's like skill sets that all kind of go. So I think we should look and see how much time is left. If it's 6 months, maybe that's fine. If it's 3 years, then we might want to find someone similar with that skill set from the original pool to backfill what we're looking for. And then if there's 1 or 2 openings, we could open those up.
Why don't I recommend that, Kirsten, if you could give a report at the next executive committee of what openings there are on the community advisory board, that would be helpful. And when the next ones will open up, that will give us some perspective that we can share with all of you.
Happy to do that.
Great. Any other questions or comments? Okay. I think then the last item would be any board member reports.
Colleen Mackin again. I don't really have a report, but I wanted to bring up, I did mention to Sean on the informational reports, item number 14, about account services quarterly update. In the very end of it has key accounts engagement. The first one, strategic accounts, and it mentions Caltrain's energy. I think the board might benefit from hearing at some point a discussion of what the expectations are from Caltrain, how PG&E is involved in that, how it affects our capacity going forward. And the second item is direct access customer acquisition. And I had to do a little brain fart on what that even meant. So I think, again, perhaps we could have a presentation in a little more detail on what's involved there.
Happy to do that.
Thank
you. Yep, Betsy.
Betsy Nash, Menlo Park. I just want to say kudos to staff for the binders that they assembled. They're really well thought out and very, very helpful.
And that's right to Brianna and Nellie. So nice job, ladies.
And sorry, jump in really quickly to let everyone know that those binders, we're working on the digital version, and those will be online on the board member training page where all the videos are. We'll have a digital copy of the binder there as well. Coming soon.
I just want to say I texted Rick this afternoon and told him I can only stay up till 8. You're welcome.
Yeah. Thank you. Everyone have a great holiday.
Yeah, happy holidays, everyone.
See all of you. I'm glad we had such a good turnout. for a December meeting, and hope you really have an enjoyable holiday and see you in January.
Yeah. She's not gonna say much, but Julia is leaving us. So I just wanna thank Julia for your amazing years of service.
Julia, your January week and honor you.
But we can, yeah, I think.
We need to thank you properly.
That's okay. But if, Jordan, I did want to say though that it's been better part of 6 years. It's been great. I do think it's time to pass the baton sometimes. So I do think it's also, I don't know if anyone else is doing any reorgs and that sort of thing, but I will let my the person who the council members taking over know about the new board member website and things. But I mean, just if we might want to consider doing something official. Yeah. It's one of the that's got a lot going on.
And that's a fair question. Does anybody know if you are rotating off or having a change for your city?
Well, this is Alan Lorraine from San Mateo. I'll just note that I have discussed a little with Ambrose Lee, who's the primary in San Mateo, about possibly switching. And I intend to apply, and she was okay with it, and so you might see me coming forward or as the primary. Not official, but by February you'll know either way.
Great, Marty.
So Marty, Medina, San Bruno, your stuff will be again.
Yeah.
That's it.
So we will have some new board members. Okay, we thought we would not this year, but we do. So we will put together a board orientation, similar to what we did last year. And bring people up to speed. And we hope you will come January so we can thank you and others who are going off.
And I know it's gonna be a loss. I don't experience it yet. I don't want to experience it. But I know it'll be real. Okay, thank you, everybody. Right, you know all. So.